Before we actually start Module 1, our first things in 8th grade math, we need to review. We need to review how to add and subtract negative and positive numbers. So let's talk about this. The rules for adding integers. Let's make sure we know the rules. If we're adding two integers and they have the same sign, see, same sign, then you add and you keep whatever sign you've got, okay? See, like this one. If I'm adding a -3 plus a -5, I'm adding. So I just add the two absolute values, 3 and 5, which gives me 8. The sign is negative, so I would keep the negative sign, okay? Same sign. If this had been a +3 plus a +5, you would have a +8, same signs. What about if you have different signs? What if you've got a positive number and a negative number? What you do is you subtract, you find the difference between the two digits, and you take the sign of the one with the bigger absolute value. In this case, it would be 5 plus a -3. I'd find the difference between 5 and 3, which is 2. I take the sign of the one with the greater absolute value, which is 5. That's a positive number, so it's a +2. Okay? What if we're subtracting integers? KAO, keep, add, opposite. Keep the first value, add the opposite of the second one. In other words, if you have 4 minus a -3, you would keep the 4, you would add the opposite of the -3, which is a +3. That would be 4 plus a +3, which is 7. I want to show you another way to do this, and that deals with the number line. Let's see if I can find the number line real quick. Adding and subtracting integers. Another way to do this is to use a number line for adding and subtracting integers. You can, if you add a positive integer, you move to the right on the number line. If you add a negative, you move to the left on the number line. If you subtract an integer, you change it to addition. You add its opposite, change it to addition, and then do it, okay? Remember, the negative of a negative is the opposite positive number. For instance, when you subtract a -a, it would be a +a. So let's try these. If I do this on a number line, I would start at 2, and if I'm adding, I'm moving in the positive direction. In this case, I would move 6 places to the right. So I start at 2 and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That would give me 8. What if I start at 3? The first number is always where you start, and then you add a -7. This means you go toward the negative direction. So you'd start at 3 and you go toward the negative direction, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? How about 5 minus 2? What I do with this is I rewrite this as an addition sentence. Okay, we're going to do that. Hold on, let me get us a pen here. Oops. Got to get it all turned on. We'll get us a pen. All right. Get us a pen to write with. Oops. I'm getting an eraser. That's not a good thing. I needed a pen. 5 minus 2. Keep. Change. And see, this is actually 5 minus 2. See, that's a +2. Change, opposite. Okay? 5 plus a -2. That's what this rewrites as. Keep, change, opposite. 5 plus a -2 means we would start at the 5, and when we're adding a negative number, we go 2 toward the negative direction. 1, 2. That would give me 3. 5 plus -2 would give us 3. -4 plus -1. We'd start at -4. Now let's rewrite this. Oh no, this is an adding one, so we don't have to change it. -4 plus a -1. We start at a -4, and then we go in the negative direction 1 place, okay? So that would give us -5, right? Let's go back up here and let's try a few of these. 8 plus 20. Well, this one's pretty straightforward. There are no negatives in here, are there? That one makes sense. That's easy for you. 8 plus 20 is 28. Okay. Let's look at number 2. Negative 15 plus negative 3. These are two negative numbers. If we're doing this, if we're adding, and the numbers have the same sign, I simply add the two digits, 15 and 3, which gives me 18. And I use the negative sign because that's the sign I've got here. I'm starting at negative 15. I'm going back 3 on my number line. How about 17 plus negative 19? Well, when you've got different signs and you're adding, you find the difference between the two digits. I've got 17 and 19. The difference there is 2. Which one has the bigger absolute value? The 19. So this is a negative 2. Think of it this way. If I started on a number line and I was at 17, a positive 17, and I went back 19, that's going to put me 2 places past the 0, isn't it? That would give me a negative 2. And you can use number lines on these. Let's look at number 4. If I started at negative 6 on a number line and I went 20 places this direction, where would that put me? Wouldn't that put me at 14? If you're not sure, let's look at this. They have different signs and we're adding. We find the difference between the two. 20 minus 6 is 14. Then you use the sign of the one that has the bigger absolute value. That would be 14. Negative 11 plus 4, we're adding. If you started at a number line on negative 11 and you're adding a positive number, that means you're going forward this direction. Negative 11, negative 10. Let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Negative 7. Or you could say that you got two different signs here and you're adding. You find the difference in the two. 11 minus 4 gives me 7. I use the sign of the one that has the greatest absolute value. Okay. On 6, I'm starting at 18 and I'm adding negative 17. This one should be obvious to you. If I start with something that I've got 18 and I add negative 7, wouldn't that give me just 1? Think of it this way. If you have a number line and you start at 18 and you count backwards 17, aren't you going to wind up at 1? Try it and see. Or you can say, I've got these two numbers. I'm adding numbers that have different signs. I find the difference, which is 1. I use the sign of the one that is bigger. Okay. Now let's look at number 7. Negative 7 plus negative 9, negative 10. These have the same signs, right? If they have the same signs, I simply add them. That would give me 17. And I keep the sign I'm dealing with, negative 17. If I started at negative 7 on a number line, think about it this way, and I went back 10, I would be at negative 17. How about 4 plus negative 16? Okay, if you started at 4 on a number line and you're adding a negative number, you're going back, right? If I went back 16, okay, then I would wind up at negative 12. Let's see what we've got. If we just notice the fact that we have two different signs, you find the difference. 16 minus 4 is 12. Use the sign of the one with the larger absolute value. How about 5 plus 9? Okay, there's no negatives here. That one's kind of obvious. I'm sorry, 15 plus 9. If I add 15 plus 9, I would get 24. Start at 15 on the number line. Go this way 9 spots, and you're going to get to 24. And then 13, if I have negative 12 and I add 4, think of this. If you started a negative 12 on the number line, so your zero's up here, you add 14 to it, it's going to be positive 12 to get here, too, right? 2 more would get you at 2, wouldn't it? Okay, let's count. If I have two different signs, I find the difference. That would be 2. I use the sign of the one with the larger absolute value. And then 15, negative 18 plus negative 5. These have the same signs. So I just simply add those. 18 plus 5 would give me 23. And I keep the sign I'm dealing with, negative 23. In other words, if I start at negative 18 on a number line, and I add negative 5, that means I go this way 5, I would be at negative 23. And then let's do this. Let's find the sum here. I've got a long list of numbers, so let's find it. I'm going to do them in order. 2 plus 4 would give me 6. So now I've got 6 plus negative 8 plus negative 11. I'm going to take care of these two. 6 plus negative 8. When I add two numbers that have different signs, I find the difference, which would be 2, and I use the sign of the larger absolute value, right? Or another way to do this is 6 plus negative 8. If I start on a number line at 6, and I go back 8, where will that put me? That will put me at negative 2. Put in your numbers and count. Now I've got negative 2 plus negative 11. These two have the same signs, so you would add them together. That's negative 13. How could I do that on a number line? Start at negative 2. You see there's negative 1, there's 0. You could go all the way back. You go back 11 spots. If you go back 11 spots, I'm sorry. No, I'm the wrong thing. This would be negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, because this is negative 1, 0. If I do that, I'm going to wind up at negative 13. Okay? Now let's look at the next page and let's do some subtracting with integers. When we subtract, we rewrite it as an additional problem. Rewrite as addition. Okay? If you do that, it will make sense. Okay? And we can use our addition rules. Negative 13 minus negative 5. Okay, this number we keep. First number you keep. Negative 13. You're adding, so you change that to that. Keep, change, opposite. The opposite of negative 5 is a positive 5. Negative 13 plus 5. If I started on a number line at negative 13, and I go up 5, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Negative 8, right? Okay. Negative 13, you got 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Negative 8. All right? Negative 9 minus 16. We're starting at negative 9. This becomes addition. We change that. Keep, okay, add, opposite. Keep, add, and see, this is minus a positive 16, right? What's the opposite of a positive 16? A negative 16. If I have these two with the same sign, I would simply add them. That gives me negative 25. You could start on your number line at negative 9. Okay, negative 10, yada, 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 yada. You're going back 16, okay? Once you go back 16, you're going to wind up at negative 25. 7 minus negative 11. Keep, change, or keep, add, opposite. The opposite of negative 11 is a positive 11. Whenever you subtract a negative, you're adding a positive. 7 plus 11 is 18. 20 minus 3. This one should be obvious to you. Okay, you know that's 17. If you're not sure, keep, add, and here notice you're subtracting a positive 3. The opposite of a positive 3 is a negative 3. 20 plus a negative 3. You'd start at 20. You'd move backwards on your number line 3 spots, and that puts you at 17. Negative 18 minus 14. Your starting point is negative 18. When you subtract, it's the same as adding the opposite. So you're subtracting a positive 14 is the same as adding a negative 14. Okay, negative 18 plus negative 14 gives me negative 32. 8 and 4 is 12, yeah, negative 32. You could start on your number line at negative 18, and here's negative 19, so forth. Move this way 14 and get you to negative 32. Negative 10 minus negative 10. Let's rewrite that one. You start at negative 10. The opposite of subtracting is to add. Add the opposite. The opposite of negative 10 is a positive 10. So if I started on the number line at negative 10, and I'm going to add a positive 10 to it, that means I'm going to go up 10 spots. 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? You're at 0. A negative 10 plus a positive 10 gives me 0. Number 7, 15 minus 2, well, we all know that's 13. But if you weren't sure, you could rewrite it. 15, remember you change your sign here to you're adding an opposite. Notice this is a positive 2, so you're adding a negative 2. 15 plus a negative 2 is a positive 13. Negative 20 minus 9, our starting place is negative 20. Then we're adding the opposite of this number. This is a positive 9, so you're adding a negative 9. If I started at negative 20 and went back 9 more, I would be at negative 29. Same thing as saying, I have the same signs here. Add the 2 and use the sign that you've got. Okay? Let's look at 11. Negative 8 minus negative 14. Negative 8 is where you start. You're adding the opposite of negative 14, which is a positive. Whenever you have different signs, you find the difference. 14 minus 8 is 6. And in this case, the one with the largest value is 14. Okay? If you're not sure, start on your number line at negative 8 and add 14 to it. Go up 14. And if you go up 14, if you count up 14, you're going to get up to 6. 5 minus 19, that's the same as 5 plus a negative 19. The difference in those two, you find the difference, and the difference in those two is 14, negative 14. And I'm using the negative sign because this one has the biggest absolute value. Or you can start on your number line at 5 and go back 14. Count back 14. 18 minus a negative 4, let's rewrite this. It's 18 plus the opposite of negative 4, which is a positive 4. 18 plus 4 would give me 22. Start on the number line at 18, count up 4. Okay? And I think that covers all of this particular thing. That's how you add and subtract integers. We're learning how to do that because we're about to go into exponents, and we're going to need to be able to do that to handle exponents.